Imagine you're behind the wheel of a great little sprint car. The sound, the handling, the power, everything about it says this is a well-engineered machine. You're running time trials on one of America's classic dirt tracks. It's dry and fast, and you've never been driving better. But you're in trouble, and you don't even know it. You're running without an air filter. One of your pit crew forgot to put it back. And that's too bad, because that carburetor is sucking in dust and exhaust fumes in enormous gulps, which means there's a gook building up inside there you wouldn't believe. What's happened to the zip, you wonder? The car seems to be straining. The engine feels sluggish. Where's the power? What's the problem? The problem is simple. The engine is not getting enough air, and it's going to leave you barely able to limp back into the pits. Here's another well-engineered machine, the human body. These guys don't know it, but they're in trouble too. Just like your race car, each man is in the process of gumming up his air intake system. Their blood, like the gas in an engine, needs air. And the air gets to the bloodstream through the lungs. So what happens if those lungs get gooked up with dust and chemicals and other kinds of mists and gases? Like the engine, the body has to slow down. The stamina fades. Even the simplest work leaves you exhausted. And it's all you can do just to get a breath of air. You don't notice it right away. It kind of creeps up on you over the years. At first you think, hey, too many beers, I'm out of shape. Then one day you notice that you always seem to be tired. That you get out of breath even when you're doing something as simple as walking home. After a while, maybe 5 or 10 years, you find that it gets so bad you can't even walk up a few stairs without stopping to catch your breath. And when you finally decide to go see a doctor, he's going to say something like, sorry, pal, it's your lungs. They're so damaged they can't give your body the air it needs. Funny, isn't it? No race driver would expose his car to this kind of dust without some kind of protection for his engine. Yet, an awful lot of people will expose their lungs to dust, fumes, gas vapors, and a lot worse without a second thought. And that's too bad, because where you can clean or even change a gunked-up carburetor, you don't have that option with your lungs. Take a look at the air around you. What do you see? A little vapor, or maybe some fumes? Or maybe you don't see anything, but you can smell it. You don't like it, but what the heck, you say. After a while, you get used to it. Unfortunately, your lungs don't. No, it won't bother you the first day, the first week, or even the first year. But give the mist and dust and fumes a little time, say 10 to 15 years. That's all it takes. Time. Ideally, you'd like the air in your workplace to be made safe to breathe. And hopefully someday it will be. That's the goal. And every industry is spending a lot of money trying to find ways to do just that. But it's not going to happen overnight, and your lungs won't wait. In the meantime, industry is providing their employees with the best protection possible. And that's where these come in. These are air-purifying respirators. They were designed to do one thing, to clean the air before it gets into your lungs. And that's exactly what they will do, if it's the right respirator for the job. Here, for example, is a simple dust respirator. It's all you need to filter out a whole list of various kinds of dusts. You can see how effective it is in this laboratory demonstration. In this chamber, we have dust. Now we force it toward the mask. As you can see, only air comes through. The dust is trapped on the outside. But what happens if you're working someplace where there are a lot of mist and vapors? You can see what happens. Hardly any protection at all. So, what the various industries do is use a respirator designed to protect you against these specific hazards. As you can see, the air comes through clean. But just because this cartridge works in this situation doesn't mean it will protect you in a different work area. In this demonstration, we're dealing with a totally different hazard, and there's very little protection. The reason, simply, is because this respirator was not matched to the hazard. So we make a change in the cartridge. Now, you have the right respirator for the job. This is the first step in choosing a respirator, matching it to the hazard. And that match can be made only after a complete review coupled with an on-site test by experts. But just to have the right respirator isn't enough. It's got to fit, and it's got to work properly. A respirator is designed so that air can be drawn in through the filter and then exhaled through an exhalation valve. If air is leaking in around the sides of the mask or through the exhalation valve, you're not getting the full protection. To check the fit of your respirator, you should perform what is called a positive-negative pressure test. First, cover the exhalation valve and blow out slightly. The mask should start to lift off your face. If it doesn't, then either the straps are not tight enough or you need a different size mask. Now, cover the filter or filters and breathe in. You should feel suction develop around your face. No air should leak in around the edges. This simple test should be performed every time you put on your respirator. Not only does it ensure fit, but it lets you know the respirator is working. But then, this test won't do much good if the respirator isn't worn properly. A pencil under the edge of the mask. A cigar through the exhalation valve. Yep, it's happened. That and a lot worse. And that makes about as much sense as poking holes in the air filter on your car. A respirator, as with any piece of protective equipment, needs maintenance and care. One of the most important maintenance jobs is to know when and how to change the filter. Let's say your respirator is used to protect you from something like a paint mist. After a while, the filter is going to start to fill up with whatever it is you're screening out. The more it gets clogged, the harder it is for air to pass through. Therefore, when you notice that it has become harder to breathe, that's the time to change the filter. If your respirator is protecting you from vapors and gases, you'll know it's time to change the cartridge when you begin to smell traces of the chemical you're filtering out. In some plants, filters are changed automatically according to a schedule set up by the employer. What's happened is, the activated charcoal in the filter can no longer absorb the gas or vapor, and it's beginning to pass through the cartridge. At the first detection of odor, change the cartridge. No way you'd risk gumming up a machine like this. Not with the investment you'd have in it. He has a lot of investment in his machine, too. A whole lifetime's worth. And now he's all but lost it. Too bad. Because if he'd have been as concerned about his lungs as you'd be about the carburetor in your sprint car, he wouldn't spend every day fighting for a breath of air. What about you? What about your air intake system? Are you protecting it? Think about it. After all, it's the only one you're ever going to have.